This room is yours. This is a mastermind. What have you guys pulled away from the content as of today?
Are we still on chapter 3, Coach? Or are we?
We are still on Effective Meetings, chapter 3. Yes, sir, Caesar.
Come on, Caesar, you're forming words. I could see your mouth forming words.
That was awesome.
Well, it's because chapter 4 was so impactful, and I don't want to talk about it since we're not talking about it. So, like, that's what I was like, okay. So I'm like, let me go back to chapter 3. So I'm like, let me get back to you guys.
Okay, I'll jump in then.
Thanks, Doug.
One of the things that these workshops do is it helps the company, or it helps the group to bond together. And I think we're seeing that in this room also, as we're seeing as we're thinking of these new ideas, and we're implementing new ideas, and we're working on the things that we're working on. This group begins to stand for each other. Like last time, Celeste really complimented Nafrita on her grasp of the subject matter and really putting it into place. So, and I see that really often in this room, and it's extremely encouraging. So, I think that's one of the big things that this does, doing these workshops, is it bonds people together, makes them bring stuff to the table.
I love that from the content, how it builds culture. That's part of that bonding is building that culture of collaboration. And just this 30 minutes every day right here is putting a culture together. And what I, again, love about this is company agnostic, broker agnostic, business agnostic. We are creating a community of growth-minded individuals. And that is just getting me even more fired up and passionate about doing this with you guys. I can only imagine what this is going to look like a year from now.
Hey, Russ, I'm going to jump in on this point here. So first of all, I want to continuously thank you for bringing this thing to light, because this whole program was your brainchild, and it's evolved. And the beauty of it is it evolved, right? So now we're in a place where I think this is a very powerful forum for everybody. I got a text message. Julissa Perez is in here. You'll see her there. I don't know if her boyfriend for life is sitting next to her or not, because we can't see the video. But he texted me this morning and said, I'm putting into form in my life what Julissa is talking to me about from this meeting. Okay, so I want you guys all to hear, number one, that we do touch other people, and this is a chance for us to reach out and touch. Yes, it's great when you're doing it with a spouse, but imagine the impact we can have. And we're going to talk about this at the very end, about how we take this and move it out to the world, right? It's great for recruiting. It's great for business. It's great for everything. It's great for touching the world. That's what we're here for. We're here to contribute. I also wanted to tell you, Russ, and I know you and I have had conversations about changes we want to make in trainings and this and that. Thursday, so not tomorrow, but Thursday, 2 days from now, we have what is notoriously in the epic world, in the Expert Partners Inner Circle, our group in real estate, our EXP group, we have a welcome meeting. I am sure that Maria was thrilled with me today, and if Joyce is here, she's even more thrilled. But I'm renovating the whole frickin' meeting. It's called the Road to Success, the Epic Road to Success. And I'm renovating the whole meeting because of what this book is getting me to think about. Not just how do we inform, but how do we put people into action, and how do we get people to change the results? So I want to say, first of all, if you've been in that meeting before, I'd love for you to come back and help us formulate the new version of that. If you've never been in that meeting before and you are part of our group, I'd love for you to be there and support that, because you need the information we're going to give you. Jen, I'd love to have your feedback on it. Okay, so those who have been, I know you've been in the past, love for you to come again, and I'd love for you to bring the new people to the organization. I'm hearing different people going, hey, I've got somebody new that started with us. Get them there, okay? So again, I want to take this stuff and move it into action, and I'm going to urge you guys to do the same thing. It's part of why we did what we did it's part of why, Russ, you've done this over 2 days per chapter, so we can talk about it and then implement. How do we implement? It's worthless to have the information. What's worth a lot is to implement the information. What we did in other situations where we took Larry Kendall's book and we went, we're going to slow it down and we're going to come back and do what was it called? The appendices, and we're going to work it. So again, I love when we get the aha. Wow, I really saw how I could do blah, blah, blah. What are you doing with it is far more important. Bring that to this room and bring that to the other rooms. That's what we're going to continue to do as we enhance our company through the filter of this book. Okay.
And when Don says our company, here's what I want you guys truly envisioning. Our company being you, your company. Every one of you is here to build your company, your brand on this platform. And of course, I've got my company, which encompasses a lot of you in this space. My company that I am building is a coaching, training, teaching, leading operation to help agents just like you perform at the highest level they desire. And of course, then we have Don's company of Epic, with Don and Allison doing that. And those are the companies, guys. We're just, for me, and I'm really working on this, the brokerage or the corporate entity you're part of is just a platform that you're running your company on. The second piece I want to put in here, Don, because it's important to me, is this meeting, the Thursday meeting, our accelerator time. Yes, I want to educate, I want to inform, I want to teach, I want to train. Yet my word for this year is inspire. I want to inspire you guys to take the action, to take the risk, to stick yourself out there and implement this stuff and watch what happens. So let's get back into it. What else are you guys pulling out of this? I'm going to even call it How to Have Epic Meetings, Chapter 3.
I took away from that, and first when I started implementing this a couple days ago when I first listened to the audio on this, and I'm kind of bringing it back home today, and it tags off of what Doug said and what you're saying about implementing. I don't have that big of a business like these guys are speaking to, but I like that they talk about a solo operation too. And I thought one of the things that I could best affect with these meetings or workshops is my family. Coach Russ knows a little bit. I've got a mother and a brother, and they own property together, and they're not on the same page. And they both come to me, and I'm like, I'm spending more than an hour a week with each person involved. So I pitched this thing like, let's do a family business workshop. We get together and pick one thing and work on fixing it. So I'm setting that up, and I'm super grateful that this book has inspired me to enact this in my life.
And I love that you're bringing it to the family, my friend. That's obviously most important. We've had lots of conversations over the last 48 hours in my coaching world about things going on in families. And yeah, all of this applies. So love it. What else you guys have?
I'll reapply
backwards a little bit, but on page 31, it talks about the formats of your specific workshops or your meetings. And he said lecture format, group discussion, or group questions. And he explained the difference of each one of those on how you can have more participation. And every time I have my team meeting, I'm always trying to figure out what I could bring, like as far as like a teaching or whatever. And the one I love the most was the discussion one. He said they already have answers. They already know what the fix is. Our job is to facilitate. He said, facilitate and bring judgment, somebody with judgment so they can make a decision at the end of asking the questions. And I thought that was powerful. So I think for me, it's going to change all my meetings. It's going to be, I'll have like a maybe some bullet points, but I'm just going to be asking questions based on the bullet points instead of me always trying to figure out what kind of training, what kind of information I need to bring. Let's engage the group and let them make the decision. And he said, by doing that, you're going to have their instant buy-in anyway, because it was their idea.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get this straight, Mark. You're going to have question-driven conversations in meetings to get other people to buy in.
Correct.
Which as a coach, what type of conversations should you be having to get clients buying in?
Questions.
Question driven. Oh, well, let me guess. As a real estate agent, what type of conversations should you be having with consumers and clients to get them to buy in?
It would be questions like, tell me about your family. Tell me about what's, important to you. Tell me about like what's going on in your business. And those lead to bigger and more understanding of what's going on in their life so that we can bring back into that conversation.
Question-driven conversations is the key to success in every single platform. So even a listing presentation is really a listing inquiry.
Yes.
Same with the buyer presentation, same with the negotiations. And so, yes, Jalissa, I love that you're putting in there open-ended questions like Mark's putting out there. Tell me about what questions, how questions.
Open-ended.
Absolutely, Celeste.
Consultation.
In all these models, questions are key. And I love that right here, we're coming back to that foundational element that we've been going over and over and over. Thank you for that, Mark. What else, guys?
I
I
have
got
one.
Celeste. Yes, ma'am.
I just really felt like when I read it the second time, it hit me in a different way. And that was, there was a point where they said, are you evaluating all of your processes, including after the sale process? And for me, I feel like I really dropped the ball. I'm going from, as Don always points out to me, I'm going from the gap and not the gain. I'm very harsh on myself, but I was thinking, how cool would it be to create a mastermind talking about what are you doing once you've closed that person? How are you continuing to stay in relationship with them? And I thought, why haven't I had this conversation 30 years ago? I do the typical stuff that you can send them a newsletter and, you send them whatever, but it needs to be more specific and accountable. Who's going to do the work? Who's going to do the thing? And I think all of our systems are that way.
Let me get this straight. You believe that you would have a better business if you had a system from closing on to build and maintain a relationship.
Yes.
And are you by yourself the best one to create and evaluate and build that?
Yes and no.
So let's address the no part. What would it be like if there was a mastermind around that topic?
I would love it.
So when are you going to put it on the calendar? When are you going to lead it? When are you going to step into that role and do this for yourself? Which is why I put these things on. It's greedy. It's for me, guys, that we're doing this. And at the same time, help everybody else. Will you do me a favor and in the next 48 hours, get with Maria and say, here's something I want to put on for everybody. It's going to be a mastermind, and we are going to roll into building a post system that we can lay out, and then everybody can implement a piece at a time.
Oh, I would love to. And I love Mark's comment.
Yes. Mark and I have coached together a long time, so he always sees where this is headed. So I love that. Number 2, will you give me permission to, again, work on your language?
Sure.
Because you spoke into the universe. I am very harsh on myself.
I know. I said that.
How instead could you deliver that same sentence to yourself that's really the truth of this moment?
I have high standards.
I have high standards.
I
want to
expect more
on this piece, though.
I want to deliver.
I love that. Let's stay on I am very harsh, though.
Yeah. Well,
Because what would be the flip side of harsh? And I'm doing this for everybody, like, because we all have these negative things that our mind speaks to us. Our drunk monkey chirps. And when you
Forgiving?
catch those in the moment, I want you to change. What would be the opposite of harsh?
Forgiving.
Forgiving. I love that. I would
Grace.
Big-headed discipline.
I would throw kind in there as well.
Grace.
Are you more forgiving of yourself today than you have been in the past?
Yes. Yes.
So how about the language? Exactly that. And making it a question again. Your subconscious loves questions. So when you turn these things into questions, it turns your brain into action, making it happen. How can I be even more forgiving of myself going forward than I already am today?
I will forgive my past and begin today moving forward with the action I want it to be.
So every time you catch yourself in that quote harsh state, I want you to read that. So write it down right now so it's in front of you so we can reprogram that piece out of your subconscious and you get to be even more loving, because the more you love yourself, the more you're helping others. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Adore you. What else you guys have?
Hey, I got a question because we're talking about all of. Actually, it's not a question. We're talking about asking questions, and it's really easy to say we got to ask more questions, open-ended questions. And one thing my coach many years ago, I mean, this must have been 7-8 years ago, said, Robert, if you want to get great with questions, you got to write them down. You got to consciously create questions in your mind so they come out in the moment, right? Spontaneity is a conditioned reflex. You can't be spontaneous with questions until you have them in your mind consciously. So this is what we did. 6 months, every day I wrote down 50 questions. So when you're thinking about how can I get more powerful with questions, whether it's a seller or a buyer or agent attraction or whatever, write the questions down. Yes, they're going to repeat. Yes, you're going to rephrase them the same way. The point is just to create an abundance of questions. So in that moment, wherever you are, I mean, it's just going to come out. And you're like, where the heck did that question come from? Well, you put it in there. And then it just shows up. So I just want to add that on questions.
That is an absolute brilliant nugget, my friend. And another thing that everybody could implement, even just for your morning journaling, add that to it, that you're going to put some questions in there. Fabulous.
You know what else?
You guys got?
Coach, I'll jump in.
Caesar, then Mark. Got you both.
Yeah. So Mark started this discussion because I couldn't find the page, and I'm glad that he brought page 31 because it brought me to my original point that I wanted to love a little bit on Coach, and because when I read this, on page 33 of saying hot seats going deeper reminds me of our old trainings when we would get called out specifically in front of the whole group. We would stand up and can I coach you for a moment? And that was putting us in pain, right? And then so what all of us remember that we're in that situation. You would not want to be in that moment again. Right. So like you would remember that pain. And so you wouldn't go out there. Secondly, I wanted to point out what we're doing here in the workshops on page 31, 32, and 33. It says role playing with Celeste, a hot seat going deeper, a demonstration training of how we just demonstrated how we can change that language, group questions of Coach Camacho, and then group discussions as we're doing. So we're basically doing the whole workshop here every single morning consistently. So like this, I just want to point that out to you guys that we're doing this. And then case studies as a training method when we talk about our stories that tie into these workshops and let you know how they work or how we're implementing them. I just wanted to point that out that we're doing these workshops every single morning now.
Thank you, my friend, and I appreciate that gratitude. Mark, what do you have next?
Yeah, and I'm going to just tag on to that as well, too. I think Caesar and Robert are both accurate on that. I feel like I don't do enough role playing. And like more times than not, whenever I'm role playing, I don't know how you guys feel about role playing, but most people don't raise their hand and say, look, I want to be the goat in the middle that does the role playing. but more times than not, my pits are soaking wet. My face is bright red while I'm role playing, but it's so freaking good for us. And I remember a coach saying one time, would you rather practice on a fellow realtor or somebody in a group like this, or would you rather practice when $10,000 is on the line? And I just had this conversation with my coach yesterday, and he said, you need to role play more the topics that we discuss in these workshops. You need to be role play those on a regular basis. We need to be sweaty. We need our faces flushed. We need to make mistakes. And Celeste, you did it so freaking brilliantly. You let coach you, and that's amazing. And I appreciate you for that.
I want to add to that, Mark. In the book we read, Never Split the Difference, 2 books ago, there is a part where Chris Voss is teaching a class, and he says, all right, who wants to role play me a situation, just a situation, and nobody raises their hands. And he uses one of the techniques in negotiation. He says, look, it is going to be a crappy situation for you. You're going to get obliterated. You're not going to feel good. And you're going to be doing it in front of all your peers. And whoever role plays with me is going to get the most out of today. Yeah, you're totally right. You want to do it when you're practicing in front of somebody who's really amazing, and not when you got $10,000 or $15,000 on the line. That's for sure.
I have mentioned that particular book so many times, and how to ask questions. And it's certainly one that I shall be going back and working with. And that's a life book for all of us. It's not even whether there's $10,000 on the line. It's a matter of how do we save our family conversations. It's how we, who knows what circumstances any of us may be in at some future point, totally unexpected, unplanned. And that's a life book. And, things are challenging. Things are perhaps more challenging now than ever. And so just, we see what's going on with our universities. I'm not speaking about fear. I'm speaking about problem solving. Who of us might be the one that helps to diffuse something and maybe even save somebody else's life as well as our own? This stuff that we're doing here, learning to ask questions. I remember I have been a teller. I didn't somebody to tell lots of things. I don't remember specifically learning to ask questions. And I remember thinking, God, how do I ask questions instead of talking all the time? So now here, and it's still a transition place for me, and I'm still telling, but here's the thing that I'm seeing. The ahas are, oh, not only am I learning a confirmation, yes, to ask questions, but I'm learning what questions to ask, how to ask them, when to ask them. And yes, this is a safe place to even have conversations like this. Thanks
Absolutely.
very much to everybody, because everybody is putting something so valuable in here.
Yep. And we are an amazing team. And as the old African proverb goes, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, take your tribe. And that's what we're building here. What else do you guys have?
I want to add just one little nugget to your proverb is we don't rise to the occasion. We fall to our level of training and what we role play. So Mark, that's huge as well. Because when you feel you're in that moment, you're like, oh, I'm going to rise to that occasion. I'm going to get that objection. But it's like, that's not really the case. It's what you're used to. And you fall to what you would normally train or how you speak. So just want to add that to that.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. I got room for one more before we hit a couple things.
A comment that I've made, being all in here, and I'll speak to myself on it, and being all in of reading while we're going, because at the rate we're going, it's a challenge to go back and read the other books. And the more we get while we're all in here, the less we have to wish we did.
What a great nugget, by the way, to play all in here. Just read the material, be in here prepared, talk about it here, and just imagine you play all in on everything else. So I'm going to set you guys up here for tomorrow, because I'm killing y'all tomorrow. Well, maybe tonight when you read it, because the next chapter is Death of a Salesman, Birth of a Strategist. And it is powerful stuff where you guys are going to start implementing different ways of being. And we all know what those we do have, which are going to dramatically affect